Good afternoon and welcome to the final Community Food and New Norm Cook Along of the year. It's been an absolute pleasure and a pleasure to have you with me here this afternoon. So today, for once, the weather is playing ball and the recipe that we're cooking today has fallen perfectly into the weather outside. I feel like I normally try to plan recipes that fit with the seasons and what the weather's doing, and it never aligns because we're in Scotland and the weather always does something crazy. But today we've got a wonderful wintry stew to cook today, which is a really, really nice winter warmer. It's a nice, easy stew, doesn't take too long. When I think of stews, normally you sort of think about slow cooking them for ages, but this is actually a nice, quick stew, but it doesn't lack in flavour or nourishing goodness or anything else, so it's a really good one. And it's a lovely cold day outside, so that works perfectly. Right, so as always, I'll be cooking a nice gentle pace so you can cook along with me live, or you can watch back later and cook along with me in your own time, whichever works for you. Either way, if you've got any messages as you're cooking, you can message me on the number that's on the back of your recipe card, which is 077 233 41919. So whether you're live or watching after, you can just message me on that number. If it's anything about ingredient swaps or the method or anything like that, then I'll be able to help you. Right, so without further ado, shall we get cooking? I'll run through the ingredients first to give you time to get them all together if you haven't already got them all out, and then we'll just crack into it. So, first things first, we need 2 tablespoons of cooking oil. I've got coconut oil there just because it's what I had in the house, but any oil will do. So whether it's vegetable oil, olive oil, anything will work. About 2 tablespoons. We need a leek, which come in various shapes and sizes. I've got quite a big one here, but that is ideal. Doesn't matter if yours is a bit smaller. We've got 2 carrots. Again, I've got quite big ones here, but it doesn't matter. Essentially, the bigger your veggies, maybe the more water you'll need to add, but we'll go through that as we go through the recipe, but don't worry too much about sort of sizes and shapes of things. We've then got a can of chopped tomatoes, some water. Now I've got 200 millilitres of water in the recipe, but that will vary quite a bit depending on the size of your ingredients, the size of your vegetables, sorry, and how quickly you cook it. So 200 millilitres of water, give or take. You know, you might need quite a bit more than that. I'm guessing the size of my veg, I'll need a bit more. Then we've got a stock cube. Any flavour will do. Veg, chicken, beef, whatever your preference is, that's absolutely fine. We've got a can of lentils, which I've already drained and rinsed, and a can of potatoes, which again, I've already drained and rinsed. And that's it. Simple as that. I'm using canned potatoes and canned lentils and canned tomatoes. The potatoes and lentils, you can use them, like you could use dried lentils if you wanted, or you could use fresh potatoes if you wanted, or you could use, for example, frozen or canned carrots and leek if you wanted as well. So it's a really, really, really versatile recipe. Basically, it can be a bit of store cupboard, a bit of fresh, a bit of using up what you've got left in your fridge. So it's actually a really, really good recipe for sort of using up odds and ends. Right, shall we start cooking then? First things first, get your pan, large saucepan. It doesn't need to be this large. This is just my default. I like to, I generally batch up when I'm doing stews and stuff like that. Not in this recipe, but this is actually a really good one to batch up as well. So if you wanted to, if you like the recipe when you make it this time, and next time you make it you want to double up the ingredients, then absolutely go for it because it doubles up really well and it's also freezes well as well. So it's a good one to sort of batch. So put your oil in the pan first. So like I say, mine looks a bit weird because it's coconut oil, but if you just use vegetable oil, then just put the 2 tablespoons of oil into the pan. And then I'm just going to pop all my cans and bits out of the way whilst I prep my leek first. What we're going to do with the leek is I've cut off the top already, but if you cut off the top bits, those bits tend to be quite sort of brown and discoloured and stuff, so you just want to get rid of them. And then what I do first is vertically slice the leek in half. What that does is it allows you to get into the tops of the leek. You see in here, it's not so bad actually when you get them from the supermarket, but if you get them sort of from a farm shop or something, they tend to be quite dirty in this bit here. So what I tend to do is run them under the sink tap. I don't have a tap here, so I'm just going to do it in a sort of jug of water. But you want to make sure you get all that dirt out from the top of the leeks. Otherwise, it's going to be quite gritty. You don't really want to eat dirt, do you? Nobody wants to eat dirt. So just give it a good wash under the tap, which will be easier if you have a tap. I'm just doing it in the water here. And then the other side too. These bits are always hidden because I did wash this leek already, but I just knew that when you cut it open like this, you get more brown bits. So you just want to wash that all out. Like so. Okay, so using the tap, just make sure it's running clear. You see that is quite a lot of gritty brown water I got out there, so you want rid of that. Right. Wash your leeks. And then once they're clean, you got rid of all the earth, then have them just on their side like this, and you can do them one at a time or together, depends on your quality of your knife, I suppose. I'm going to do them separately. And then you just want to chop them into half moons. So just kind of like 1/2 centimetre slices all the way down the leek. Okay. Till you get to the end. You can do these as chunky or as thin as you like. I sort of say 1/2 centimetre is probably just about right. You don't want them too big. But equally, you don't need to make leeks really tiny slithers. They don't have the same sort of strong flavour as onions. Okay. You can also just do these as full circles rather than as semicircles, but the reason I like to cut it in half first vertically is exactly as you saw, there does tend to be kind of some dirt hanging out in between the layers of the leek, so you want to get that out. That's a lot of leek. If your leek's half this size, then that is absolutely fine. I think I've probably overdone it a little bit with this huge leek, but hey, waste not, want not. What, waste not, want not? Is that the thing? Right, once you've chopped your leek, now you just add it to the oil in the pan. Oh, there we go. Lovely. And the best thing about leek is watching it change colour. Not change colour, it doesn't mean it doesn't go blue, but it goes a wonderful, vibrant green as it cooks. And I just think it's lovely. Like they realize, yeah, once leek's cooked, it's just a wonderful, I mean, it already is a lovely green, but it just goes a much more vibrant green, which is brilliant. So there we go. Just gonna let the leek do its thing for about 5 minutes. And as I say, it'll soften, it'll go a lovely vibrant green, and it'll smell delicious. So meanwhile, we can prep our carrots. So top and tail. And I normally say, don't bother peeling your carrots because there's lots of nutrient in the skin, which is 100% true. And I don't normally bother peeling my carrots. However, as you can see, these ones are a wee bit dirty. I've not done that good a job of cleaning them, so I am just going to give these a quick peel whilst we're waiting for the leeks to saute off. So just any bits like that, you just want to make sure you get them off because you don't really want to eat that. And then just peel away. But if you've got nice clean carrots, then skip this bit because there is so much goodness and flavour in the peel of carrots. The peel of most vegetables, actually. I think we're sort of taught to peel our veg, but actually I think if you, as a default, don't peel your veg, that's a much better place to start from because all vegetables contain a lot of nutrients in their peelings. So if you can just give them a good wash so there's no dirt and stuff in them, then you really don't need to peel them. Saves you time, added nutrients, saves wasting food. It's a win-win really. And if you have a look at these leeks now, see that wonderful vibrant green colour. That is just delish. And it smells pretty good too. Right, now chop your carrots. Shape, size, completely up to you. Because we're using tinned potatoes that are already cooked, I'm going to slice my carrots quite small because we don't have any cooking time for the potatoes. If you're cooking both, then you can make your carrots, what I would try to do is make your carrots a little bit bigger than your potatoes so that the cooking time kind of matches, if that makes sense, because carrots are a bit, cook a bit quicker than potatoes on the whole, generally. So I'm just going to slice down the middle there, and then I'm going to do them diagonally like this, just because I like quite big slices of carrot rather than just little dices, but that's completely up to you. You can also just dice them into little cubes if that's how you prefer them. But yeah, completely up to you. Cameraman's after a little bit of the end. There's always somebody that's skulking around whilst you're cooking trying to get offcuts. It's normally the dog, but there we go. If you don't have fresh carrots, but you've got canned carrots or frozen carrots, then they are absolutely great for this recipe too. Or if you've got, for example, a bag of frozen mixed veg, then you can chuck that in, or a can of mixed veg, then you can chuck that in. So really, really versatile in terms of what veggies you use in this dish. Right, so now you can see that my leeks are all nice and soft, vibrant green, and smelling amazing. So at that point, we're just going to add in the lovely orange carrots. So pop them in. Ooh, lost one there. Pop them in. Give that a wee stir around. Right, we want this on a sort of fairly medium-low heat right now. We've got the leeks in, we've got the carrots in. Now basically we just add everything else. So if we bring back our lentils, potatoes, tomatoes and stock cube. I'm going to add the stock cube first because I've got a bad habit of forgetting about him. So we'll just put that in now. And then we'll put the tomatoes in so there's some moisture in there. Get all the goodness out. And then I'm going to put the potatoes in because potatoes, you probably want to make sure your potatoes are all a similar size. I've already drained this can and they're not wildly different, but if you've got some huge potatoes and some small potatoes, you might want to cut them up to be even. That said, they're already cooked, so it doesn't really matter too much. They are cooked, but they're relatively hard, so I'm going to give them just another kind of 5-10 minutes simmering in the stew as the carrots cook. So just mix all that in. And then I'm going to let all of that cook for 5-10 minutes before adding the lentils, because if you add the lentils now, they'll sort of mush down into nothing. If you're using dried lentils, then you'd want to add them right now as well. But because these are cooked, that's fine. And then just a splash of water. So I've got 200 milliliters in the recipe, so try that for starters. And then you basically just want to bring this up to the boil. And then that's basically it. So now you just want to let that, bring it to the boil and then reduce it to simmer for 5 minutes. Essentially all you're waiting to cook for, can't get my words out. Essentially all you're waiting to cook is the carrots because your potatoes are already cooked. You've already sauteed your leeks and that's it really. So yeah, you just want to, let me just give that a good stir. Just turn that up slightly to let it come to the boil. Gonna add another splash of water. because that will simmer off. And then once it's boiling, put the lid on and reduce it to simmer. There we go, that's boiling. You can see it just around the edges. Pop the lid on and then reduce to simmer. If you don't have a lid, then you probably will lose a little bit more water. So as it boils and simmers, the water evaporates off. So if you don't put a lid on it, the water just evaporates off, whereas if you put the lid on it, then it sort of contains down into the pan. So if you don't cook with the lid on, then you'll probably need to use a little bit more water. Equally, if you cook it quite fast, then you'll probably need to use a little bit more water as well. So it is a little bit by eye on this one as well. And like I say, it also depends on the size of your veggies and stuff. So that's essentially it, guys. We're now just waiting for it to, the carrots cook down, and then we'll add in the lentils. So meantime, if you've got any questions at all about anything in today's recipe, or actually in any of the recipes that you've joined or cooked across the last few months, then please do shout. Like I said, before this recipe, it's super versatile. So if you don't have a leek, then you could also just use an onion. Similar sort of flavor. You could just add in some onion and garlic rather than the leek. If you do that, it will be a bit wetter, I suppose, because there's not the same volume with an onion as there is a leek. So that will change the consistency as well. But like I say, I quite often make this with just whatever's left in the fridge. So it might be an onion, might be carrots, might be parsnips. I've seen myself put some beetroot in there as well, but it tends to then change its colour wildly, but that's okay. It's also, if you've got, right now is the season for neep, for swede, turnip, whatever you call it. That's a great one to put in here as well, because it tastes fantastic. It's got a lovely sort of sweet taste to it. Thing to note with that is that it does take quite a long time to cook. It's quite a hard vegetable, so it takes a little bit longer to make it a nice edible consistency. And the longer you cook it, the sweeter it becomes actually. So it's one that you don't really want to scrimp on the cooking time. So if you, the other thing that you can say, I said this is, I mean, we're pushing the boundaries of what it is now, but it doesn't need to be lentils that you add to this recipe. If you've got like chickpeas or beans, or even if you have like a can of baked beans, you could add that to this stew quite nicely, because you've already got the chopped tomatoes, so this sort of the sauce of the baked beans would go quite nice in here as well. So it really is a bit of a hodgepodge stew. As much as you want, you can use any ingredients that you've got. So that makes it a really nice, easy one. Right, should we have a look in? There we go, simmering away lovelily. God, I'm not getting my words out very well today. Simmering away nicely. There you go. So my carrots and potatoes are still looking pretty. The potatoes are cooked, but they are quite hard straight from the can. So I think that needs another 5 minutes to simmer away there. And then once that's started to cook, once it's sort of in a nice, the carrots are nearly done, I'll add the lentils, and then you'll sort of see it get its consistency of a stew rather than kind of a soup. So in terms of what you can serve this with, then the world is your oyster. I love it just with a bit of chunky bread, actually. So if you've got some bread and butter, serve it with that. Also quite nice with rice as well, if you want to serve it with some rice. Or just some like green veg, if you like. So some peas or sauteed spinach or something like that. I think it's always the default of what to serve things with is quite often like pasta, rice, potatoes, the sort of starchy carb stuff, which is absolutely fine. But sometimes when it's a dish like this that's already got potatoes in it, you don't really want to put more starchy carbs with it. So bread, rice, it's fine, but you're sort of then I've got quite a lot of starchy carbs in the meal. So actually serving it with some green veg like spinach or peas or kale or anything like that that you can just sort of like quickly saute and stick on the side works really nicely. Or green beans or something like that as well. So it depends on what you've got available to you. Yes, there we have it. Also, if you've got any fresh tomatoes, that actually really lifts the flavour of it. I should have thought about that actually, because I've got a fresh tomato in the fridge that's kind of past the... This is an odd reference, and I always make it with tomatoes, the toothbrush test, which I said this to somebody before, and they were like, what are you talking about? I thought it was a universal thing. But I say the toothbrush test, when a tomato, if you were to scrub out the toothbrush, it would leave a mark. You know what I mean? If a tomato is nice and firm, it would, the skin of it stays nice and smooth. But then if it's a bit past its best, then it kind of wrinkles when you do the toothbrush test. I don't actually drag my toothbrush across my tomatoes, but it's just a kind of saying. Anyway, if you've got some tomatoes that are nearly past their best, then that's great to add into this stew as well. So that's a good thing to note. Right, how are we? Yes, that's looking good now. Simmering away there. Smells divine. Carrots are still a wee bit hard, but I'm going to add the lentils at this point, just so we sort of get the stewy consistency. You can see where I'm going with it, and we can taste it. There you go. See, once you stir through those lentils, it suddenly takes on a whole new form, doesn't it? Lovely stew there. You also need to make sure that your stock cube that you put in there has broken down throughout the stew and isn't just sitting there in one big clump. So make sure you give it a good stir to make sure that has broken down. Right, I'm going to get my spoon out and give it a taste test. That's actually really delicious. Lovely balance of the tomatoes, the saltiness of the stock, the leeks. The leeks actually got a really strong flavour in there, which is really nice. So no, it's absolutely fab. If you want, I don't think you need to add any salt to that at all, because the stock cube does a good job with that. But if you wanted to add some black pepper, or if you like spiciness, you could add a sprinkle of chilies, or just chili powder, whatever you've got. Or also if you've got some dried herbs, then that could add a nice little bit of extra flavour to it as well. So there's all sorts of ways you can sort of, you know, make it a bit more exciting in terms of the spices and herbs and stuff. But actually, just as it is, it's got a really, really nice base flavour there. Really nice, actually. I sound surprised. I don't know why I do sound so surprised. It's just a really nice basic winter warmer recipe, and it's just really kind of wholesome flavours actually. I often forget about leeks because the default is sometimes onions, because you know you've always got onions are really easy to get hold of, but leeks have a really nice, it's kind of a sweeter flavour I suppose they have than an onion, so they're really good to use in recipes now and again. I think stews work really well because they do sort of bulk it out a wee bit more as well. Right, let's see how our carrots are faring. I, luckily, am quite a fan of quite hard carrots, hence I make them quite chunky, but if you aren't, then you probably want to cook this for a bit longer. They're still pretty hard. They're still pretty hard. Give it a wee taste. Actually, not too bad. Still got crunch to them, but I think that's fine. Completely up to you in terms of how you like them. More importantly, I suppose, just double check the potatoes, because you don't want to be eating raw potatoes. That'll give you a bad stomach. Nope, perfect. Give that a go. What? That's absolutely fine. I never actually use tinned potatoes, and I don't know why. I just never have prior to this recipe actually, and they're so good, you know, because they're new potatoes. They're quite tasty potatoes. So like at this time of the year where you don't really get new potatoes so much as kind of older potatoes, the tinned potatoes, they've got a great flavour and they're already cooked. So it's brilliant for recipes where you sort of normally have to wait 20 minutes for the potatoes to cook. Just bang the can in. So I'm a convert. I'm a real convert to tinned potatoes. So if you don't normally use them, then this is quite a good recipe to get you on board with them. So there we have it, guys. We're ready. My carrots are quite hard, but I'm going with it because it's quite boring for you to watch me wait for carrots to cook. And also, I quite like a crunchy carrot. So I'm going to serve it up and let you get on with your day. So turn the heat off there, give it a final stir, and then I'm going to get my ladle and serve up. So this should make about enough for 4 portions. So make sure you've got a bit of everything. Some of that lovely leeks, potatoes, and carrots. Oh yeah. There we go. Going to town, that's a big portion. And yeah, if you want to sprinkle some black pepper on the end there, just to finish it off. There we have it. Delicious winter warmer potato and lentil stew in 30 minutes. 35 if you want your carrots a little bit more cooked, but they're absolutely fine with a bite in them as well. So enjoy, guys. I hope that that becomes a staple in your repertoire, because it really is a good recipe now right through till March. That's a fantastic winter warmer. So enjoy it. If you've got any questions when you're watching this back or anything wasn't clear in the recipe, please do just drop me a message on the number that's on the back of your recipe card, which is 077 233 41919. And I can answer any questions you have. But I hope that you enjoy this recipe and you enjoy it as much as I have. I'm looking forward to dinner. Right, thanks very much, guys. Take care. See you soon. Bye.